Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by two great apps, 1Password and MindNode. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is my co-host, Federico Viticci. Hi, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm doing just fine today. A few episodes ago, in episode 56, we talked about controlling your use of your iOS devices, and particularly your iPhone, just the whole notion of time well spent and dealing with notifications and do not disturb and all that sort of thing. And then we went off to WWDC in San Jose. And what did we get from Apple? But some tools to help us figure out how to control our use of our phones. And I thought we'd talk about that today, just kind of follow up from where we were a month ago and see what we have that's coming up in the fall with iOS 12.
That's a great idea. But before we get into that, I think you have some follow-up.
I do have a little follow-up. And I wanted to mention, one of the things we mentioned last week that is coming with iOS 12 is third-party navigation with CarPlay. And at the time, I hadn't had a chance to try it out. And I went out over the last week and plugged my phone in with a lightning cable into my car and took a look. And there was nothing there. I've got Waze and Google Maps on my phone, but they aren't showing up in CarPlay yet. So if you're running the beta, don't be surprised if you don't see it. But I suppose either in a later beta or maybe not until iOS 12, we'll see it eventually. But for now, it's not there.
So the way that CarPlay works is if you have a beta on your phone, you also have the beta of CarPlay in the CarPlay monitor thing.
Yes, I believe so, because the CarPlay is not doing much other than projecting icons and UI onto the car. It's not like you've got a little mini iPhone built into your Honda or whatever it is, right? It's sending, as I understand it, it's actually sending video to that screen, and then it's integrated with the touch screen so it knows where the tap targets are for the icons and things like that, but you're not actually running iOS on your car.
Oh, okay.
It's still running on your phone, so it just means that the beta, iOS 12 beta, doesn't have the CarPlay support yet for those apps.
Right, which I imagine, Google and Waze and all these companies will have to bundle up some CarPlay extension into their apps. And of course, that's not possible on the App Store yet because developers cannot submit iOS 12 updates, which will probably happen in September. So in a few months, John, you will probably have Google Maps and Waze in your car, but soon, but not yet.
Yes, it's a special process if you want to be on CarPlay too. I mean, you have to do a little extra as a developer. So maybe it may be that Google and these other companies haven't even done that yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you mentioned that we discussed time well spent and being mindful of how much we use our devices. And we got some interesting updates in iOS 12 just about this topic. I want to start with notifications because this is probably one of the more important changes for average consumers. This is the feature of iOS 12, better ways to manage and interact with notifications. I think normal people will not necessarily care about shortcuts, but they will go crazy when they see just how easier it is to deal with notifications in iOS 12.
Right.
The big feature, which funnily enough is something that Apple used to have before, although in a different form and with a different design, is grouping by app. So this works by default, and just install iOS 12 and you will see in your notification center whether it's on the lock screen or the cover sheet thing. When you pull down your phone from the top of the status bar, you will see that notifications are grouped by the app that sent the notification. Now, I still haven't watched the WWDC session where Apple explains notifications and grouping. I believe there's ways for the system to separate notifications from the same app into multiple groups.
Right.
So for example, iMessage threads, they will create multiple stacks of notifications. I'm not sure if developers have a way to separate notifications in different sections or different channels, sort of like the Android terminology. I believe there will be ways for the system to split this up, depending on, for example, different calendar events or different iMessage threads, different mail threads. So it will still be grouped by app, but also by topic, is my impression of iOS 12, which totally works because I think that is a great implementation. And the basic way to deal with group notifications is you just swipe up and you see these stacks of cards and you can swipe on them. and you got 3 buttons. You got clear all, which is a way to clear an entire group of notifications. You can view the last one, the most recent one, or you can just jump directly into notification settings, which I want to talk about in a few minutes. But I wanted to ask you, before we get into settings and managing notifications, what do you think of grouping?
I love it. I mean, this to me is just about one of the most powerful features that we're going to talk about today. It's very simple, but if nothing else, it allows me to clear out whole stacks of email or iMessages or whatever it happens to be without having to go through and find where they are chronologically through a stack of a whole bunch of other types of notifications. It's just a much more logical way to deal with notifications and manage whether you want to see them or not. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been using it a bunch, and I can already say that the effect of having the ability to instantly clear my notification center with just a few swipes has been amazing. I mentioned that you can swipe, and the first button that you see is manage. When you hit manage on notification, you get this beautiful new UI right within the notification center or the lock screen that shows you, it's like this pop-up card that pops up and shows you the icon and name of the app that sent the notification. And from this panel, you have 3 options. You can choose to deliver quietly, you can turn off notifications, or you can just jump directly into the settings page for that app's notification settings. Deliver quietly is interesting. If you enable this option, which again you can do directly from this screen, you will essentially turn off all of the annoyances of these notifications, and they will go directly to Notification Center. So the app will not play a sound, will not show you banners anymore, will not badge the icon on the home screen. Notifications will be delivered quietly, silently to your notification center. I've been doing this for some apps that I don't want to be bothered from, but also I don't want to completely lose the ability to receive alerts.
Right.
It's been working nicely so far, and I see it almost as a trial period. If I want to turn notifications off for that app, first I'm gonna put them in the delivered quietly zone, and then I'm gonna decide what I want to do with them.
Yeah, it's like putting them in the penalty box.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did right away is I just left my notifications alone for a few days so that I had a good cross section of everything that notifies me on my phone. And then I went through, and literally within just like 2 minutes, I was able to get rid of a lot of things that I really didn't need. Before it was too much of a hassle because they didn't come in that often, but they were still kind of irritating. But now, with the ability to manage so many of these things just from the notification center or lock screen, I was able to, in just 1 or 2 minutes, quiet a whole bunch of different things that used to bother me. It was really nice. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by 1Password. I want to talk a little bit about something that's very important to get right these days, and that's passwords. Everyone needs to use passwords for websites, apps, really anything that connects to the internet. The trouble is, secure random passwords are hard to remember, so people just reuse them. The solution is to use 1Password. It manages your passwords so you don't have to. I've been using 1Password for years, and it's become integral to my computing life, so much so that it's one of the very first apps that I install on a new Mac or iOS device. It stores all of your passwords behind a single hard-to-guess master password that only you know. 1Password is also great for helping you create long, random passwords that are secure. But 1Password does a whole lot more, and I want to tell you a little bit about that now. The app can also evaluate your current online security with Watchtower. It's a great feature that can audit your passwords for repeats and weak passwords, alert you to apps and services that use two-factor authentication that you're not using yet, and even let you know when a site you use has been compromised so you can go in and change your password. It's exactly the kind of proactive approach to security that you need to stay safe. With 1Password's help, it's easier than ever to log into accounts, fill in credit card details, and a whole lot more. 1Password can even store things like secure notes, travel documents, credit card and banking details, and documents like your tax return. And there's even a travel mode so that you can remove data from your mobile device when you're crossing a border and then restore it as soon as you arrive at your destination. Everything syncs quickly across all platforms, too, with end-to-end strong encryption. On top of all that, there's friendly one-on-one support available 24/7. App Stories listeners can get 3 months of 1Password for free by visiting onepassword.com/appstories and signing up today. We'll put a link in the show notes, and please use that so they know you came from App Stories. Again, that's 3 months free at onepassword.com/appstories. Go ahead, forget your passwords. 1Password remembers them all for you. Get 3 months free with App Stories today. Thanks again to 1Password for supporting the show.
One of the things we mentioned in our previous episode was our wish for deeper and more customizable notification settings for the watch. So ways for users and developers to more finely control which notifications from which apps stay on the phone and which ones go to the watch. Now, there's no such feature in iOS 12. If developers want to build these features, they have to do so manually without a consistent system API. There's no API that says, you can go into settings and pick and choose which kind of notifications you want to have on the phone and which ones need to be mirrored on the watch. So if developers want to do this, they have to code them manually. And every time it'll be a different system that you will have to set up in that individual app's preferences. But all the changes that we mentioned for notifications, so grouping and being able to swipe and get the deliver quietly options and the ability to instantly turn off notifications or jump to settings, these are also available on watchOS. So when you swipe down on the watch, which by the way, in watchOS 5, you can now open Control Center and Notification Center, not just from the watch face, but in any app that you're currently using. To do so, you just need to tap and hold on the top or bottom edge of the display, and you will see the sort of the Control Center and the Notification Center panel sort of slowly come up or down, and then you can swipe and reveal them fully. So it's very convenient because it allows you to have controls and notifications in any app that you're using, not just on the watch face. That said, Notification Center, it's got the same UI as the iPhone. It's got stacks of cards, and you can swipe on them, and you get 2 buttons. One is to clear notifications, the other is to open a contextual menu, and the contextual menu contains deliver quietly and turn off on Apple Watch, which means the notifications stay only on the iPhone, but you can turn them off on the watch, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really nice feature. I think another thing that's worth mentioning on the phone, which I know you tweeted about just the other day, is how responsive this is.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredibly responsive. I mean, you did a little video, and it's amazing how fast the keyboard comes up, and just when you press and hold on a notification, how quickly that little preview pops up. It
feels so nice because it finally feels like the notification card transforms into the expanded notification. Instead of being like a 2-step process, it feels like a single continuous animation.
Right.
And it looks really nice. And the keyboard comes up immediately, which allows you to type a response just a second after you expand the notification. It's really nice, and especially if you have notifications that have custom previews with lots of images or perhaps even streaming video, you can appreciate how the notification card expands into the full rich notification. Really, I'm so happy that Apple is finally putting some time and effort into rethinking notifications. It's maybe not as much as some people hoped, and especially when it comes to controlling the flow of notifications from the iPhone to the watch. Maybe there could have been something more, but I'm totally fine with what Apple is offering in iOS 12, and I'm so surprised that the instant tuning is what they call the ability to manage settings right within Notification Center. I was not expecting Apple to offer this.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that they followed sort of the Android model from that point of view.
Yes, when we talked about that, I knew that would make a big difference, but it's made an even bigger difference, I think, in the way I deal with notifications than I even expected. And 2, the fact that we have the groupings back, it is designed differently than it was, what was it, like a couple of OSs ago before we lost it.
Yep.
I didn't realize how much I missed that until I got it back, basically.
Yeah.
Because it is really helpful in terms of triaging your notifications.
Yeah, and the new design is so much better than the old one because
Right.
it allows you to expand and collapse entire groups of notifications. Moving on, I want to mention quickly before we turn to screen time, there's some changes to Do Not Disturb as well. Again, not quite to the extent that I was expecting. So there's still no do not disturb when I'm working out, or do not disturb when I'm watching video, or all the more advanced ideas that we discussed at some point on App Stories. But there's some useful new activation methods for do not disturb. Primarily, you need to open Control Center, and if you press on the do not disturb icon, the moon shaped icon, you will get these new options. Turn on for 1 hour. So if you're doing something and you don't want to be disturbed for a few minutes, just turn it on until this evening or tomorrow morning. So if you're in the middle of the day, you don't want to see notifications until you come back home, you can turn on do not disturb until the evening. There's a button that allows you to enable D&D until you leave this location. So if you're at the movies or you're at the restaurant, you can enable do not disturb based on that on that geofence, essentially, so that when you leave, you will get notifications again. And finally, until a calendar event is over. So do not disturb will look into your calendar. I think this was one of the features that I imagined in my review last year. And do not disturb will see the calendar going on, and it'll offer a way to silence notifications until the event is over. So if you have a meeting, or if you're one of those people that saves, I don't know, date night as a calendar event, you will be able to enable it in Control Center. I think it's fine. I think I used the location option last week when I was at the restaurant with my girlfriend. I enabled the do not disturb toggle for Control Center, and when we left, my phone started getting notifications again.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, there are a couple of nice little touches here too. When you look underneath the one that says "until I leave this location," it tells you where you are, so you can kind of be comfortable that it's picking the right location, which I'll tell you, it's not for me right now. Right now, mine says Cornerstone Investment Management, which I have no idea what that is and where that is, but
what?
Supposedly that's at my house. And underneath the calendar one, it tells you what event is currently running in your calendar, which at the moment is recording App Stories.
Yeah,
so,
I got the same one. Until the end of this event, record App Stories.
Right.
Mine says, the location one says home. So I suppose it is correct. iOS knows where my home is, and your iPhone has no idea. Unless you're in a different place, you haven't told me.
I'm at a secret location.
Again, I would love to have some serious automation here going on. Like I wanna set a custom schedule, or I want to have shortcuts that run in the background and enable do not disturb based on certain triggers. Like I want to have specific location triggers, so that every time I enter a specific location, do not disturb is automatically engaged. But I see why Apple may be against the idea of background activation of do not disturb. Like, what if you get a notification and you don't see it because you forgot that you have this system going on? Personally, I think it would be fine. Just let me control the experience, and let me say, whenever I'm here at the shopping mall or at the movies with my friends, enable do not disturb for me. I don't want to open Control Center. But Apple, the first version of a feature, they never go with the automatic or power user options.
No,
they let you do things manually, which is fine.
Yeah, I can see being able to hook this up to HomeKit would be kind of cool too. Like you open the back door at your house and you walk in and your notifications turn back on. That would be kind of useful. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by MindNode, visual brainstorming for iOS and the Mac. MindNode is a brainstorming tool that helps you connect your thoughts and clarify your ideas. Starting from a central idea or topic, you can grow your ideas organically, branching off from a central idea to related topics, focusing and refining as you go. I find MindNode a great place to start a big project. Getting started is really hard, and having a place to quickly get your ideas down and organized is crucial. MindNode is perfect for this because it's so easy to get ideas down and connect them in an organized, logical structure with virtually no effort. I especially appreciate how good its built-in templates are because they look great and I don't find myself fiddling around with formatting when I should be brainstorming. There's no need to think about the structure of your mind map either. Completely changing the organizational structure is simple. All you have to do is drag around the nodes in the map. There are a lot of powerful tools to help you illustrate your ideas too. You can add images, stickers, links, and even cross-link ideas. I use MindNode for organizing my thoughts before I get started on a big article, but it's great for a lot of other different projects too, like preparing for a presentation, getting ready for a school exam, or planning a book that you're writing. MindNode works hand in hand with task managers too. You can export to things, OmniFocus, and even reminders. Start planning in MindNode and then export to your task manager once your plan comes together. One of the greatest strengths of MindNode is that it's available everywhere and the experience is great on every platform, whether you're on Mac or iOS. The iOS app is just as full-featured as the Mac app and has the added benefit of an Apple Watch component too, so you can be productive wherever you are. And of course, your mind maps are available and synced using iCloud Drive, so they're always there, ready to go when you are. There's a 2-week free trial too, so there's no excuse not to give MindNode a try today. You can learn more at mindnode.com or go to the Mac or iOS App Store and just download it right away. We'll have all the links in the show notes, so please use them so MindNode knows you heard about them on App Stories. Thanks again to MindNode for supporting the show.
All right, so the big feature of iOS 12 in terms of time well spent is screen time, which funnily enough, I'm pretty sure it is the fake name that I imagined on Connected and App Stories sometime in January or February. I just said, what if they call it screen time? And sure enough, it is called screen time. I'm not taking credit, I just think it's funny. Tell me about screen time, John. What is screen time?
All right, so there's actually a lot going on here. It's in settings, so you go to your settings, and then it is in the third group after your iCloud ID and some of the basic stuff. It's right beneath. It's in part of the section that includes notifications and Do Not Disturb, which makes a lot of sense. And when you open it, I heard you say on Connected this week that it was taking a little while for your statistics to show up.
Yeah.
Mine's taking a while too, even though I don't have iOS 12 on my iPad yet. So I'm not sure that it's related to that. It takes a couple of seconds, and then at the top you see all of your devices, and it gives you a graph showing what you're spending your time on and how much for each category of app. So I've got things like social networking, productivity, reading and reference, that sort of thing. And then the next section goes through and gives you some tools to control how much you're using your iPhone or iPad. And we can talk about these in more detail in a second, but there's downtime, app limits, always allowed, and content and privacy restrictions. And then if you have family sharing set up, there's a section for all of your family members. And so you can lock down the amount of time various family members spend, and it's different depending on whether they're kids or not. You have more control over kids' devices, and that's about it. I mean, you can tap through and get more information if you go to your devices. That's the one that I like, is just go through and see in more detail. You tap on all devices, and you'll see exactly what you've used your phone for today, and then it has a separate tab for seeing the last 7 days, and that screen itself goes through, on an app-by-app basis, how much you're picking up your phone, what else? Notifications, how many notifications you're getting from different apps, which has been a real eye-opener. That's a good one.
I know.
The notifications, I mean, it works really well in conjunction with what we talked about before, because you can go in here and I can see that today I've had 12 Slack notifications and 11 iMessage notifications so far, and it's still early in the day. But you go on the 7-day and you can see really what the trend is and see really which are the apps in the course of a week. So it's really handy. What do you think about it?
I think as you mentioned, the pickups and the notification numbers are that's quite the experience to see. And it's like, if you go to the 7-day tab, which I remember with the first beta eventually becomes a 10-day tab. I'm not sure. I think 10 days probably the battery. Anyway, it's a week's worth of data.
Right.
It's rough after a while. Like, right now, past 7 days, 446 iMessage notifications, 120 Slack notifications. This is a lot of times that my phone is bothering me with something.
It is.
And I get it. Like, I'm talking to friends, I'm talking to people, I'm talking to family, and I'm getting notifications. Still, those numbers, like, as you use your phone, maybe you don't think about it. But when you see the hard number in front of you, unless the phone is lying to you, and I don't think it is, that you're facing the reality of just how much we depend, and we've grown used to getting the constant buzzing on our wrist or
Right.
the banners on our phones, and even the hourly stats for app usage. Like right now, I see 5 hours of Tweetbot in my weekly report view. I use Tweetbot more than Safari, which Safari I use to read articles in reading lists and to browse around for news and for work. And I don't like it. I don't like that I'm spending more time in Tweetbot than in Safari. So I already set an app limit for Tweetbot of 1 hour and 45 minutes for social networking every day. But I'm probably gonna set 1 hour and 20 minutes or something. Because I don't like that these apps are, I spend more time in them than apps that I'm supposed to be using for work or for something else like music or Headspace or activity. Like I want to spend more quality time instead of just scrolling my Twitter timeline and being a completionist because I need to read all the tweets. And every time when I finish reading all the tweets, I think, well, this was actually kind of useless.
Yeah. I mean, when I look through mine, I have very similar numbers to you, a little less on things like Slack and iMessages, but my Tweetbot usage is almost identical to yours. And just the aggregate numbers are pretty sobering too. My notifications are at just over 1,000 for the week, and that's bananas. I got to get that down. And then I've got my pickups are like 113 a day, 790 total for the week. That's a lot.
Let me see my pickups. Oh my God, what are your pickups per day?
113.
All right, so I have the iOS 12 on my iPhone and iPad, so it's collecting numbers for both.
Oh, is that your excuse?
No, let me see just my phone. All right, so my phone 67 per day of pickups. But if I see all devices, so this is one of the features, you can filter numbers per device, or you can just see the aggregate numbers for all your devices. I have 313 pickups per day.
Oh, wow.
Weekly total 2,193.
Oh, my gosh.
Notifications are 1,200.
Federico.
Around 173 per day. Oh, God.
All right. This is one.
Terrible.
Well, see, here's one where I can give you a hard time about this because I may have a lot of apps on my phone, but they're not notifying me nearly as much as yours are.
Picked up phone once every 4 minutes. I'm addicted.
Yeah, mine's every
God.
8, I think. It's still pretty bad. I think we've got a serious problem we need to work on.
So that's screen time for you. It's showing us that seriously, I want to use. It's not like I want to stop using my phone or stop using my iPad because I also work from my devices. So
Right.
the phone doesn't know that I actually use the iPhone and iPad for work. So to an extent, I don't feel necessarily bad about the fact that I pick it up a lot or that I get tons of notifications from Slack. But what screen time I hope will help me do is being more mindful of certain aspects of the notifications that I get and the times of the day when I use my iPad or my iPhone. So I'm looking into trying to reduce the amount of notifications that I get from certain applications like Tweetbot or apps that just send me reminders that I don't actually need. And I want to look into the downtime feature of screen time. So downtime is a way to set a schedule when you want to have some downtime away from your iOS devices. And you can say, my downtime is between, 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. And the only apps that I'm allowed to use are phone, messages, and Safari, something like that. So I want to look into downtime, especially because when it's late at night, I just want to, after dinner, after we're done working, I just want to spend time with the dogs and my girlfriend, and we just want to watch a movie or something. So maybe I could do things like between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. allow HBO or something like that, so
Right.
that I know that in that time frame I can only relax and do something enjoyable, like watching a movie or reading a book.
I think that's the kind of thing you could use too when and set up differently on your iPad and your iPhone. So for instance, you might be watching a movie in the evening and turn off basically everything except for HBO, but leave iMessages going on your phone so that if you do get
Right.
something from a family member or something, you'll still see it, but it's not going to interrupt your movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to see how app limits will work. So far I've hit my social networking limit, I think twice. And when you hit a limit, you get this full screen view that prevents you from using the app and tells you you've hit your daily limit. You go do something else. But it's so easy to override. There's a button that says ignore limit, so you can
Yes.
keep using the app. I kind of wish that there was a more difficult way to dismiss the limit.
Yeah, like you had to go into settings or something like that.
Or like, I don't know, like having my girlfriend authenticate and giving me permission to like a two-person authentication.
Don't make someone
system.
else have to deal with your problems, Federico.
Yeah, I know. So overall, we have improved notifications, new options for Do Not Disturb, and screen time showing us a bunch of useful and worrisome statistics about our usage of iPhones and iPads. It seems to me as if Apple, one of the features of, one of the core themes of iOS 12 is letting us have a healthier relationship with our devices. Because these three features, which are really tentpole features, notifications, do not disturb, and screen time, I see a cohesive theme that runs across them of letting us spend, if not necessarily less time using our devices, being more conscious and being more aware of what we do, and letting us silence the things that bother us or annoy us. Would you think that that's what Apple is trying to do?
Yeah, I think it is. And along those lines, there is one thing that I have on my wish list, which I'm not super optimistic we'll ever get it, but that's the same sort of tools for the Mac. Because I'll tell you, really, in all seriousness, one reason why I think my statistics are lower than yours is because I spend a good part of my day on my Mac. And like you, when I want a little break from writing or whatever I'm doing, I'll just peek at Twitter once in a while, and I'll do it on my Mac. And so that's one reason sometimes my phone just sits on the charger for big chunks of the day while I'm working. But I'm doing the same kind of time wasting on my Mac, and I'd like that to be brought into this so that I could get a better overall picture. It's just like the task managers and time trackers that we've talked about before. It's this sort of tool that really needs to be on every device so that you understand kind of globally what you're doing with your time. All right, Federico, that seems like a good place to stop for this week. I mean, I think you and I have some soul searching to do and figure out exactly how to modify our behavior going forward. But we've got all summer to do that, and we'll be ahead of the curve compared to anyone who doesn't put the beta on their phone, I suppose. In any event, I want to thank again our sponsors for today's show. That's 1Password and MindNode. And as always, you can find both me and Federico writing over at macstories.net. And Federico is on Twitter. He's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.